to Wetpixel Live. My name's Adam Hanlon, I'm the editor of Wetpixel, and I'm joined today from the sunshine in the south of England by our regular correspondent, regular contributor, Alex Mustard. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Adam. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I assume the sun's shining then?
On and off, but yeah, at least it's not raining.
It's raining up here, so there we go. So Alex and I, a very commonly discussed topic on the Wetpixel forum is camera lanyards, how we attach our housings to ourselves when we're diving, and obviously it's a hot topic, so we thought we'd discuss that today. So I'm going to ask Alex, how do you attach your camera to yourself, Alex? Housing to yourself?
A bit of a trick question. Yeah, so I actually have never been very interested in attaching my camera to myself. Not for any great sort of philosophy, just I've never felt I'm about to drop my camera. And I do have the ability. So I have a carry handle on my housing. I know you have a pretty similar system, which I clip between the two top joints of my strobe arms, which then when I carry my camera keeps it all nice and neat. And if on a dive I need to clip my camera to me, I can undo one of these ends, swing it across and clip it on. This one's made by Custom Cords in the UK, who are just a small company that make these pretty cords, and you can specify what color and what length you want. And I think that for me, for the majority of my boat diving, works really well. I do actually really like the most common type of lanyard that I see, which is kind of like a spiraled, like an old
Curly
telephone.
Yeah.
With also an ability to make that a short clip.
Yep.
So you have the camera permanently attached on the long clip, and then you have a second pair of bulldog clip of like BCD clips, which you can then clip together, and then the camera can be held much closer to you.
Yep.
I actually think, though, if you're into shore diving, two of these is a really great solution, because then you've got a sort of a double camera handle should you need it. But also when you're going in for a shore dive, you can then clip your camera, one of these clips on one side, one of these clips on the other, and then your camera is held nice and square on your chest as you walk into the water. So having sort of a pair of these clips hanging down with the camera attached to it, I think is really good for shore diving. So it can be worth actually buying a pair of these and use the double clip technique, clipping to the big D-rings on your shoulder straps of your BCD or your wing. Like that is a really good way into the water. So I'm actually a really big fan of these, and actually buying a couple of them is actually quite a clever thing to do, particularly if you're going to do shore diving, as I've been doing plenty of this year. But once I get back to boat diving, I have to say though, if you are particularly new photographers, definitely feel much more confident having their camera clipped to them all the time. And I actually know some of the best underwater photographers in the world who also really like having their camera clipped to them. So although I don't like mine clipped to me, and I know you've probably got more reasons not to clip yours to you, I would never say it's wrong to clip your camera to you.
No, of course it's not wrong, and you should do what works for you. That's absolutely true. But philosophically, the first problem I found with clips, and the worst example of those, are the little wrist lanyards that people have to them.
I've got one of those.
And people assume, they put their hand in them, and they assume that they're therefore attached. And I've seen it happen multiple times when people have got it on their wrist, they've taken their hand off the camera, let go of the camera, and it's floated off, and they've lost the camera. So the first point is I always find that, by not clipping it to myself, I know that if I let go of it, I'm going to lose it. So don't let go of it. It motivates you not to actually let go of it.
Yeah. So I remember doing a dive in Nusa Penida in Bali for the molars, and myself and my buddy, we swam out, shot a nice molar out in the blue. The current was picking up pretty strongly.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I said, right, the current's getting too strong here. We're a little bit away from the reef. I'm turning around, coming back to the reef. Swam back to the reef very gently, very relaxed, really easy. My buddy turned around probably 10 seconds after me, couldn't get back to the reef, had to make a blue water ascent. By the time I turned around, when I got to the reef, like 10 seconds later, he was gone. It was crazy conditions. I was like, right, I'm out of here, started swimming back to the reef. And then by the time I reached the reef, 5 meters away and turned around, there was no molar and no him. And I just, oh my God, he's gone off chasing the molar into the blue. But he said he literally tried to turn around behind me and the current took him. And anyway, on his ascent in the blue, to send his SMB up, he clipped his camera to his chest on its lanyard, sent his SMB up, and by the time he got to his surface, he realised that the camera clip he had missed or whatever, and the camera drifted off. Although I have to say that there was quite a lot of joking afterwards because he was desperate to upgrade his camera. And it was that on the last day of the trip, he happened to lose his system and put in a big insurance claim and upgraded himself to a D300 at the time.
Oh, well, there we go. so that's my first reason for philosophically not liking lanyards. The second reason is, and I think this is probably boils down to my own dexterity and intelligence. When I'm moving my camera around and I'm trying to get in the right angle, I find that they actually start limiting and particularly if they're attached to strobe arms, which obviously is an option, but I start finding that they get in the way. And I see lots of people kind of doing knit one, purl one type exercise with lanyards underwater. And that to me has always been a problem. That said, what I always have when I'm underwater is I will have a means of connecting the camera to myself. So in the classic example that you cited, Alex, and so I have a couple of options. A classic example you cited in Raja a few years ago. I had a very similar experience with the current picking up. I couldn't make it back to the reef. I ended up putting up an SMB and coming away. And obviously at that point, it's much easier to put up an SMB with two hands. So I don't have a lanyard on my camera, but I was able to clip my camera to myself, get the SMB up. And like your friend, I did surface with both me and the camera and an SMB. So I do always have a means of attaching the camera. And I have two distinct options on that. The first one is exactly the same as what you do, Alex, which is this is as it happens, is actually my D850, and you can see at the top of the strobe arms, I've done a very simple attachment with this is just with a piece of cave line. I've made my own little handle with two clips on it and a piece of fuel line or something. Obviously,
mine is prettier than yours.
Yours is much nicer, Alex. No, yours is much. Mine's a bit rough and ready. I know. I've actually just come off a call with Harold at CCAM, and actually Harold is also producing a designer clip that's going to replace my tatty bits of cave line in here.
Oh, nice.
And will actually go into the clamps. It basically fits exactly where this piece of cord is, and you'd be much nicer than my tatty cave line. This has the advantage, as Alex has mentioned before, it makes a really good carrying handle. I can put it over my arm with a great big lens on it and big strobes like this. This is pretty heavy, and walking into the seesaw and so forth, it makes it much more convenient. Of course, I can detach this, and I would detach this while I'm shooting, and then this becomes a means of clipping the camera into myself if I need to as well. And with that in mind, what I also have, and I'm just going to put this camera down for a minute.
Sure.
I also have, on all my housings, I have a loop somewhere of cord. So I don't know how obvious that is because it's black cord.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So it's just a piece of black cord, and so I can use a number of different things. So if I can use my carrying handle, I can just clip that into that black cord, clip that onto myself, do whatever. But also I frequently have ubiquitous kind of double-ended clip like this. And again,
on your
one
BCV
of those
type thing.
On my BC, I normally have one line around. I use it for attaching strobes and snoots and things anyway, and that just clips in, and I can clip it onto a D-ring on my waist. So I can clip it wherever it's convenient. So it's a versatile system. So although I don't use a lanyard, I do always have a means of attaching my camera. And as I mentioned, there's obviously several different techniques depending on how my camera is set up, and I think that's the difference to me. I also think we should differentiate between securing a camera and carrying a camera, and certainly the kind of ideas you had mentioned, mounting on your chest with two lanyards for shore entries is a really good idea. But I certainly don't want to be doing that underwater because it would just be a pain.
No, that's but then you just unclip it. You clip two clips across, and then at the end of the dive, if your fingers aren't too cold, you can come back out that way as well.
And it's a very convenient way of carrying, particularly a big heavy camera. And if you've got rough, rocky entries, whatever that's a really good way of getting it out the surf and everything else. It's a really good idea. But that's very definitely a sort of carrying technique as opposed to a securing technique. And so I think probably we should consider both when you're considering how you're going to attach your camera. What do you do then, Alex? If you need to put up an SMB and stuff, how do you deal with that with yours?
If this is across the two, same as you, if this is across the top in, say, a normal optic, just unclip one side of it, clip that onto me,
Yeah.
And then the camera will hang quite happily. I have to say, I'm quite lazy a lot of the time. What I often do is just put my arm through that, and then I've got two hands here and do the SMB like that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of diving in the Red Sea where it's SMB at the end of every dive, and I'm, particularly in the tropics, I don't have any, it's nice and easy to do. It's a little bit more of a pain in gloves with cold fingers, I have to say. But I typically dive with a proper reel in the UK when I've got cold fingers, whereas I'll use a finger reel or even just a ribbon around my SMB. SMB, for those that don't know, I realise we've got to the end of it, is a surface marker buoy, or a balloon that you can send up from underwater rather than one when you get to the surface and then inflate.
Just to delayed surface marker buoy, technically it's a DSMB technically.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Also, I think it's quite a British term. In the States, it's not always called an SMB, I don't think.
Don't they call it a ballon?
And I think they might call it a buoy.
A buoy. Yes, of course.
Anyway,
sorry.
And obviously around the world, it's going to vary as well. So we define it.
And Alex makes a very good point. Something else about all these clips. Make sure, obviously, quite often we buy these clips somewhere warm and exotic, or we go down somewhere and they work fine, and then you get home somewhere where it's cooler, assuming home is somewhere where it's cooler, and suddenly discover that you can't work the clips anymore. And certainly my original lanyard that I showed you has very small clips, which I put on because I was traveling. I wanted to save weight. And then I discovered the other day, in fact, when I was testing EMWL, that I actually can't work those clips with my dry gloves on. And I think at one point I ended up using my teeth. Nice
on metal when you're really cold.
Yeah, cold, very nice regulator out, bite it off.
That sounds particularly safe as well.
So make sure that the clips you use are substantial enough to be used with thick handwear if you're planning to do so. So I think that's kind of fairly short and sweet. So thank you very much. Alex's imagery you can see on amustard.com.
Absolutely, yep.
Or on Instagram at
AlexMustard1.
AlexMustard1 is his Instagram handle. So thank you very much, Alex. Thank you to CCAM for sponsoring this episode. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please give it a like. And obviously, please share how you attach your housing to yourself when you're diving in the comment section below. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again soon.